यशोदानन्दन प्रजजन रञ्जन यशोदानन्दन प्रजजन रञ्जन यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय विश्वपाल परमहंस परिलक्ष्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमती स्वामी श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विश्वपाल परमहंस परिलक्ष्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विश्वपाल श्री गौर किशोरदास महाराज की जय। जय विश्वपाल सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्तिवेदांत ठाकुर की जय। जय विश्वपाल वैष्णव स्वामी श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जी गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य दास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कौशिक कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्वेत दादर श्वशांत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र महेश दर्शन भगवान की जय। श्री मायपुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। ISKCON वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय। समावेत भक्तम की गौरव प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to the Tuesday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Canto 3, chapter 20, text 19 to 21. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Ashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtihi. Text 19. Visirjat Manahakayam Nabhinandams Tamomayam Jagruhur Yaksharaksham Ratrim Kshutri Samudbhavam. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Out of disgust, Brahma threw off the body of ignorance, and taking this opportunity, Yakshas and Rakshasas sprang for possession of the body, which continued to exist in the form of night. Night is the source of hunger and thirst. Text 20. Vyam upasrishtaste tam jakdum abhi dudruvaho ma raksha tainam jakshadvam iti uchuh arditaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada. Overpowered by hunger and thirst, they ran to devour Brahma from all sides and cried, "Spare him not, eat him up." Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada. The representatives of the Yakshas and Rakshasas still exist in some countries of the world. It is understood that such uncivilized men take pleasure in killing their own grandfathers and holding a love feast by roasting the bodies. Text 21. Devastanaha samvigno mamam jakshata rakshata aho mem yaksha rakshamsi prajayuyam Bhavuvitha Devastanaha Sambhigno Mamam Yakshata Rakshata Aho Me Yaksharakshamsi Prajayuyam Bhavuvitha Devastanaha Sambhigno Mamam Yakshata Rakshata Aho Me Yaksharakshamsi Prajayuyam Bhavuvitha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Brahma, the head of the demigods, full of anxiety, asked them, "Do not eat me, but protect me. You are born from me and have become my sons. Therefore, you are Yakshas and Rakshasas." The demons who were born from the body of Brahma were called Yakshas and Rakshasas because some of them cried that Brahma should be eaten and others cried that he should not be protected. The ones who said that he should be eaten were called Yakshas, and the ones who said that he should not be protected became Rakshasas or man-eaters. The two Yakshas and Rakshasas are the original creation by Brahma and are represented even until today in the uncivilized men who are scattered all over the universe. They are born of the mode of ignorance, and therefore, because of their behavior, they are called Rakshasas or man-eaters. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshutmiltam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupkada Mahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Vidapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrijatam Sagana Raghunatantikam Tam Sijivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvidamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मोहं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दैतार्णं परमात्मानं श्री चैतन्येश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. So from these three verses, in the first verse we see that Brahma was disgusted and he gave up this body of ignorance. Now, a personality like Lord Brahma, who is the creator of this particular universe, he himself became so much disgusted that he was forced to give up his body, this body of ignorance. So Srila Prabhupada quotes in many of his lectures that this entire material creation is meant to bring all the living entities, particularly those in the human form of life, to a stage of disgust. Why? Because animals or birds, the other living entities cannot understand that they are disgusted. But in a human form of life, one can understand that we reach a point of disgust. This is what he says, that normally all the living entities are engaged in four activities, that is eating, mating, defending, and sleeping. But in human form of life, there is a higher purpose. And to make us reach that purpose, the Lord brings us into many forms at many stages of frustration or disgust, whatever we call. So we can understand, yes, I have been brought to this stage, but why? And if a person asks this question, why I have been brought to this frustration, that is the time he thinks, yes, there must be a higher purpose, and Some take to spiritual life, fortunate ones, not everybody, and some may not also. So that is how Brahma was brought to the stage of frustration, and he thought it was better to give up this body out of his frustration. And when he gave up this body, what really happened was uh, the Yakshas and Rakshasas came up for possession of his body, and to the extent that they were overpowered by hunger and thirst, and they wanted to devour Brahma and eat him up. So then Brahma says that please spare me and don't eat me. We are all my sons. So we see today also in the current civilization, there are many uncivilized people living in some backward class countries. They may be even living in some advanced countries also, who Shri Prabhupada in fact gives in one of these purport that how there are people who are used to killing their own grandfathers and roast and eat them. So they are generally the uncivilized ones, but the civilized demoniac people are ones who cannot live without eating meat or flesh of other living entities, whether goat or chicken or whatever it is, fish. So many meat eaters are there. They are also come under this demoniac category because at the human form of life, they are not supposed to eat this, but they eat. And not only that, we find today in this current situation, we will find that many people have that demoniac characteristic. Now, they might not be physically eating our material body, but definitely the current day civilization is demoniac because they don't believe in God at all. They say that there is no God. And when we go out to preach, they may take a lot of time and energy from us to put forward their theory that God does not exist at all. We'll come to that point. So many times we we are brought into such type of frustrations also in the course of our preaching activities. The Lord Himself explains in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text 8 and 9. He explains what are the qualities of those who are demoniac in nature. He says, they say that this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. And they say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. So their belief is that there is no cause and there is no effect. There is no controller at all. This is what they believe. But we know that there is somebody, some super power who is controlling all our activities. He's seated inside, watching everything that we think. He listens to whatever we speak, and he also sees whatever we do. They say manasama chakarmana. And accordingly, he gives us the resultant reactions also. So demoniac people today think that the world was not created by God. So it has just come of its own, which is not true. But one who can introspect can come to understand that there is a creator behind this, and the creator is none other than the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. And then comes the next point that human life is meant to acquire some knowledge that we can get. Of course, materially also people aspire to have knowledge, but materially the civilization is gone to such a state that in the process of acquiring knowledge, there is so much of a competition today's world that even a child, when he's sent to the school, from that time onward, the competitive nature in the children is built up. This is how the schools promote. And then he goes to college. There also, there is a lot of competition. And then when he goes and looks for a job, there also there is a lot of competition. And to such an extent that people are frustrated. But unfortunately, even though they are brought to a stage of frustration, they don't even understand that why this frustration happens in us. So that is why the Shastras give us examples, and this particular example of today's sloka is just one of them. We have classes in the temple for Bhagavad Gita, but nobody wants to come and attend the classes also. On Sundays, we see that many times when the Bhagavatam class goes on, there were hardly 20, 25, 30, 40. But then When the class comes to an end at that or at the beginning of prasadam time, the hall is full. So people don't want to come and hear a little bit of Krishna Katha, and they just would like to have prasadam and go off. Even that is okay. But then at some stage should come that by honoring prasadam, one should try to understand this prasadam that I'm tasting is something different than what I cook at home. Isn't it purifying me? So this question does not come under their thought process at all. And then, so this is what is called, Srila Prabhupada calls demoniac civilization. And the next sloka, that is sloka 9, he says, following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. This is what the people, the so-called intelligent people, they call themselves intelligent. They might be qualified materially, very, very high qualification they may have. They may think themselves to be the most intelligent people. But what they are doing is driving the entire civilization into destruction. That is all. And one example is the nothing but you take the internet or the computers, all these inventions may be good, but at the same time, what has happened is people have got addicted to it. They can't live even a moment without seeing the internet or sitting in the front of the computer or even the mobile. The addiction is so much that people even drive while using the mobile, not realizing that what they are doing. So many accidents take place. So some might think, yeah, the civilization is so much advanced, but this advancement has not brought any prosperity to the civilization. If you look at a few years back, we were having the same telephone communication, but it was a landline. But the communication was much better than what it is today. Sometimes even where I'm sitting, we don't have networks throughout the day. We don't have network. So what is the use of that type of uh, invention, which is more of a disturbance? So people used to come and attend classes in the temple in person. But after that, they became lazy and they thought, after all, I can listen to this in the internet. But not everybody has been fortunate enough to do that. So on one side, the inventions keep going on, but what is happening is that other side, the civilization is becoming more and more demoniac, which is what Srila Prabhupada mentions. And among such people, those who kill the animals, they are very, very prominent in today's society. So this is the word of demoniac. Now, why? Because people have unlimited desires. Their desires do not come to an end at all. And they want to do something to fulfill those desires. And that is why this competitive nature has been built up in us, so that the more I want, I'm still not satisfied. To the extent that finally what happens is that even if somebody has acquired something which they desired for, they are having difficulty in maintaining it. Why today so many people are highly qualified and without job? Why so many people who are highly intelligent, who have got so many high marks and all these things in their examination, that's struggling to get a job? So these are things that people don't think, but instead to fulfill that desire, they are prepared to do anything for satisfying their desires. So that is why it is said, there was an article a few days back in the paper which said that the society is so disturbed today, which has never ever happened in the past. And it is going to degrade only. It is not going to get anything better. Then we come to the next point where it is said that these yakshas and rakshasas, they want to kill their own masters. For example, these yakshas and rakshasas were born from Lord Brahma, but they wanted to kill himself. So examples are given in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, where Srila Prabhupada mentions about Hiranyakashipu. He wanted to receive a benediction from Lord Brahma so that he can fight with Lord Vishnu. And he adopted so many means. This is the way demoniac people think, how to defy the authority of God. And finally, what happened was he was vanquished. Also, there is an example of Lord Shiva, who from whom came a demon. And this demon received a benediction from Lord Shiva, but later on he wanted to kill Lord Shiva himself using that same benediction. So these are called demoniac people who want to even kill those from whom they have got benedictions. But a Vaishnava is one who never thinks on these 11 levels, and he always thinks how to help others become devotees of the Lord. There are some different classifications of these Rakshasas, which we will go through because today's main subject is on demoniac people. In the 10th canto, there is a mention of how Rakshasas are understood to be accustomed to eating their own sons as snakes and many other animals do. You know, many animals, they are used to eating their own children. So similarly, Rakshasas are there who are used to eating their own children. At the present moment, it is said that Srila Bhagavad mentions that in Kali Yuga, Rakshasa fathers and mothers are killing their children in the womb. So many times we see people doing abortion. Now, they might not be aware of what abortion is. It's actually killing a child in the womb. So that is why this is one example where Srila Prabhupada gives about an example of Rakshasa mentality or demoniac mentality. Another example of this demoniac mentality is given in the 7th canto as to how Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill his own son. For what? Because his son was a devotee of the Lord, and Hiranyakashipu did not believe that there is God. So finally, it came to culminated to a point where he asked his servants to kill Prahlad Maharaj with their tridents. But the thing is, he said, the servants chop him up, pierce him. So like that, they started harming Prahlad Maharaj. So similarly, here we see in the 21st sloka, we see Brahma says, do not eat me but protect me. But the previous sloka 20, they say that spare him not, eat him up. So one says that spare him not, and the other one says eat him up. So the one who say that eat him up, they are the yakshas. And the ones who say that spare me not, spare him not, they are the rakshasas. That means the yakshas are the one who are used to eating meat, and Rakshasas are the one who don't want to protect. So if we see today, also in today's society, people don't have that even that moral attitude of trying to protect if somebody is in danger. But the society has driven itself to a point of exploitation. How can we exploit the other person? What can we get out of him? So these are all demoniac mentality. And there is a quote in Srimad Bhagavatam 8th canto where the Rakshasas, they wanted to kill Swayambhuva Manu. Now, Swayambhuva Manu is from whom the mankind has originated. And he was doing tapasya, he was deep in austerity, meditating on the mantras of the Vedas and Upanishads. But when these Rakshasas and Asuras saw, they were, after seeing Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, they became so hungry, they wanted to kill him and eat him. So they ran after him with a great speed towards him. But Lord Vishnu protected Swayambhuva Manu. This is one class of, one type of men who want to kill their own rulers. Another nice example which Srila Prabhupada gives is in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says government men are like carnivorous demons called Rakshasas. Now, why here? Srila Prabhupada explains, sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and they take away all his accumulated wealth. Being bereft of this life's reserved wealth, the conditioned soul loses all enthusiasm. Indeed, it is as though he loses his life. So, again, this is a very nice example where how government people come and exploit. Now we see that bribery or corruption is a very common thing in society. So people work very hard to make some money, but what happens is that income tax people or government people come and take away that, and the person who has lost it, he starts thinking he has lost a big fortune. Neither the money belongs to him, nor he has lost it. What he has earned it by illegitimate means, he has lost it. That's all. So, like this is one classification of the Rakshasas. And generally, these are the ones who are born out of the mode of ignorance. A person who is more in the mode of goodness will never try and do such things. There is also a mention in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sri Prabhupada mentions in the purport, there are some types of living entities in the form of human beings whose living conditions and eatables are most abominable. They eat flesh and fermented blood. Now, such type of people are known as yakshas, rakshasas, bhutas, and pisachas. There are many people who have ghostly character. They are all born out of the mode of ignorance, and they are all placed under the control of Lord Shiva, under control of Lord Rudra. This Rudra is none other than an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he is in charge of the mode of ignorance in the material nature. That is the reason Lord Shiva's one of the name is called Bhutanatha, the Lord of the Bhutas or the Lord of Master of Ghosts. So Prabhupada also mentions in one of the places in fourth canto, he says in many places they open butcher shops or they're cutting animals. And they also not only do that, but in that shop they keep a picture of Goddess Kali. Now, Srila Prabhupada clearly mentioned that Goddess Kali never eats such food. But what happens is that her associates, she's in charge of all these ghosts and spirits and all those things. Such spirits and ghosts, they eat what is called this non-vegetarian thing. And people who eat that, they eat like what has been eaten by ghosts and these spirits. That is why, if you see that demoniac people have a lot of anger and a lot of greed, this is the reason because they eat what is left by the ghostly bodies and spirit bodies made of spirit. So these are all one type of demoniac character. Now, Sri Prabhupada mentioned in the seventh canto, when the good quality of goodness is prominent, that means we know that the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. He says that when goodness is promoted, prominent, the sages and demigods flourish. And with the help of that quality which they infuse, they surcharge the others. That means when demigods and devotees of the Lord flourish, then what happens is that others become surcharged. And similarly, when the mode of passion is prominent, the demons flourish. That means the demoniac people flourish when there is a mode of passion. And then when ignorance is prominent, the yakshas and rakshasas flourish. So this is how it works. And today it is difficult to find somebody in a mode of goodness. We generally find people mostly in passion and many in the mode of ignorance. That is why we find people who follow or see television and see so many nonsense that the society is displaying in the form of by the actors or actresses. The society has become very, very abominable to even look at. Srila Prabhupada quotes in his Krishna board. Yeah. Under the direction of the Supreme Lord, these three classes of men are created by material nature, but those in the mode of goodness have a greater chance to be elevated to the spiritual world back home to Godhead. That means at least those who come to the stage of goodness, they have a chance to be elevated to the spiritual world. So that is why when we have an opportunity to associate with sadhus, which one should try not missing that. One should not miss that. There is another class of mention in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Prabhupada mentions how we advocate cow protection and encourage people to drink more milk and eat preparations that are made out of milk, like sweets and so many things are made out of milk. But the demons, they want to protest that because they are used to eating milk, not eat milk, but they are used to killing that cow and eating that flesh, which is called beef, which they feel is very nutritious. No. So these are the classes who are demoniac in nature. And there is one reason, one source, or one process by which these demoniac children are born. That is mentioned in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometime back we have discussed. It says Kashyapa Muni, actually, Diti, his wife, had a union with Kashyapa Muni at a very unfortunate time. And then after they had the union, Kashyapa Muni tells Diti, because your mind was polluted and because of the defilement of the particular time, because of your negligence of my directions, and because of your being apathetic to the demigods, everything was inauspicious. In fact, he says how Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were born because there was a union between them at a very inauspicious time. And that is the reason Srila Prabhupada emphasizes the importance of Garbhadana Samskara in many places, so that those who are born are at least sattvic or godly by nature. Now, the next point that is mentioned is here is about how people are afflicted by hunger and thirst. Why they are afflicted by hunger and thirst is that they are attached to the body. When one becomes attached to the body, he is always afflicted by this hunger and thirst. And to fulfill that hunger and thirst, of course, everybody is hungry, everybody is thirsty, but one should take what is minimal required to fulfill that hunger and thirst. But demoniac people are not satisfied with that. And so there is a conversation in the fifth canto between Jadabharata, where he tells King Raugana, Jadabharata was carrying the palanquin, and he didn't want to even harm an ant or a small living entity. That is how he became so compassionate. And he's telling in the instruction, he gave many instructions to King Raghunatha who got upset on him. And one of the instruction that gives is that fatness, thinness, bodily and mental distress, thirst, hunger, fear, disagreement, desires for material happiness, old age, sleep, attachment for material possessions, anger, lamentation, illusion, and identification of the body with the self are all transformations of the material covering of the spirit soul. And a person absorbed in the material bodily conception is affected by these things. So, who becomes affected by hunger and thirst are all given here. That those who become attached to the body, they think that they are fat, they should become thin. One who is thin, he thinks he should become fat. And such people, they can't fulfill the desires of this thirst and hunger. And in the process, what happens is that they always have this bodily and mental distress. Hardly you will find anybody today who is mentally or bodily satisfied. This is because the mode of passion and ignorance is very, very predominant. Similarly, they have struggled with the old age, they have problems of sleep because they have attachment for all the material possessions they have. That means we have two things. One is we have hankering, we need a lot of things. And the other thing is lamentation. When we get something, we lament when we lose. So this hankering and lamentation is one of the causes for civilization to be driven to this demoniac stage. And one who becomes free from all these things, then only one can live a happy life. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that if one who is spiritually advanced is never attached or connected to this material body, that means if one develops some sort of a taste for spiritual life, one automatically loses attachment for all these material conceptions. And then he starts realizing that he's not this body, but his spirit soul. But at the moment, Sri Prabhupada concludes by saying that in the current age, all are driven to becoming Vipada Pashu, that is two-legged animals. That is why people are not happy. And he said that for everyone, there is a possibility of them to become like Jadabharata, to understand that self. That is the reason that people are driven to frustration or disgust, whereby one can take up the spiritual life. And even if one is taking birth in a demoniac family, still it is possible for a person to become enlightened in spiritual life. And that is also possible. And one example is Prahlad Maharaj himself. He was born in a demoniac family. I mean, his father was Hiranyakashipu, who wanted to kill him itself. But he became a devotee of the Lord because he got association of Narad Muni when he was in the womb of his mother. And he got the opportunity of taking that knowledge. And when he appeared, though he was born in a demoniac family, he was godly by nature. He was a devotee of the Lord himself. And finally, what happened was Hiranyakashipu got angry on Prahlad Maharaj when Prahlad Maharaj started exhibiting qualities as a godly person. Not only that, and Prahlad Maharaj started instructing his classmates on devotional service. And in the seventh canto, there's a sloka where Prahlad Maharaj tells his classmates, he says, "Oh, my friends, oh, sons of demons, everyone, including you, that is the Yakshas and Rakshasas, the unintelligent women, Shudras and cowherd men, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living entities can revive his original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga." That means he's advising, he's giving instructions to his classmates that though you are all born from Yakshas and Rakshasas, not only you all, but even unintelligent women, Shudras and cowherd men, the birds, lower animals, and the sinful living entities can all revive their original constitutional by just reviving their original eternal spiritual life and exist forever by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. So in other words, then he's thereafter says Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. He explains the process of devotional service of these 9 stages of devotional service, by which any living entity, even the most abominable ones like the Akshas or Rakshasas, they can also revive their original spiritual nature of being a servitor of the Supreme Lord. And that happens by Shravanam Kirtanam and Vishnu Smaranam, for which one has to associate with those in the mode of goodness. But if one associates with those in the mode of passion or those in the mode of ignorance, they will at some point of other become either Yakshasa or Rakshasa. Yakshasas and Rakshasas need not be necessarily born in that family, but those who are even godly or born in a godly family can in no time become Yakshas and Rakshasas with an improper association or association with such people. At the same time, one can become a great devotee of the Lord by associating with devotees of the Lord. And that is how even those born in a Yaksha family or Rakshasa family can become godly by nature. So here the conclusion is that these Yakshas and Rakshasas, they don't mind killing their own people, whether it is father, their own children, or their own relatives, or even those who have given them the benediction to become powerful. Here we see that Brahma gave them the benediction and they wanted to eat of Brahma. So that is how the Rakshasa or Yaksha's mentality are. And they are in that mode of ignorance. That is how they adopt these qualities or characteristics. This is all I have for today's class. So if you have any questions or any comments, I can take for the next few minutes. There is one point which I missed. That is the comparison between daylight and night. The knowledge is compared to daylight and ignorance is compared to the night. Now we see here how thirst and hunger are compared to the night, and because of the anxiety and all those things. So knowledge is something like daylight. When we get knowledge, we become enlightened. So that is what we see during day. We see when anything that we see during the daylight is bright and we are able to see it clearly. But in the night, we don't have a clear vision because it is dark. And that is the time when normally these yakshas, rakshasas are very active. They are not active during daylight, but generally they are active during the night. That is why all these abominable activities also generally take place in the night. If you see the bars, restaurants serving nonsense items, they serve till late in the night. That is how the practice of opening till late in the night have started. But good activities or godly activities are generally conducted during the daytime. So that is how the activities also are compared to daylight and night. Daylight is generally when sadhus are busy discussing Krishna Katha, doing service to the Lord. But generally, the Lord, they don't serve in the middle of the night. But in the middle of the night, all abominable activities take place, with the result that all the ghostly creatures and demoniac people are active, and in terms of eating, drinking, and all those things. So, this is one point I missed. So with this, I conclude my talk for the day. I can take some questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So we can call these land grabbers, the politicians, the gundas as yakshas. Can we?
Yes, Prabhu. When we say anybody with a demoniac nature, they are all in that category. Like here it is written that one who says not to protect, they are all rakshasas. But then yakshas eat flesh physically. So we might find somebody who is eating our mind today, which is happening day to day. And there are people who grab also. So all are demoniac, either coming in the group of yakshas or rakshasas, ghostly spirits. So many things are there. Definitely they come under the classification of demoniac people. Definitely.
So Prabhuji, we have 84 lakh species, right? Like 4 lakh is humans, the others is all other rest of it. So what body do these people get after death? Can you please explain?
People who believe or behave demoniac way, they become yakshas or rakshasas. Maybe the next birth, this birth they may eat you mentally, but then the next birth they are forced to eat somebody physically. That is also existing today. But then Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita, those who are in the mode of ignorance, they are driven to hellish conditions. So they may have to take the birth as ghost spirits in hellish planet. This is as per Krishna's instruction in Bhagavad Gita. So this is the outcome of those situated in the mode of ignorance. They may be doing it, but then the thing is they are not in knowledge. Then they don't want to be in knowledge also. I can understand the reason why you are asking this question, but then this is what it is.
Recently, while we were taking Gita 15-minute session class, Prabhuji, one participant asked, his relative smokes and drinks alcohol. Okay. So he was saying, what body will they get after death like that? Is there any difference, Prabhuji?
Is there any?
What sort of body do they get after death if they smoke and drink and all that?
In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a mention of how each one gets a body according to their situation that they are placed. So those who are smoking, those who are eating, drinking, they cannot definitely get a better body. They can only get a worse body. Now, what they may get may be depending on many other qualities. Now, drinking and smoking is the beginning of a demoniac mentality. And those who drink and those who smoke, they want to become intoxicated. So Lord can give a body in which you automatically feel intoxicated and you start sleeping all through the day. Now, it can drive one to eating abominable things. Definitely, that is how the association is. Those who eat and drink and smoke, they don't just drink and smoke, but they are driven to eating flesh also. So it will drive them to a demoniac mentality further and further and further, where it will get only abominable. It cannot get anything better. And they are destroying this valuable human body, which the Lord may not give. So he can become now I don't know how to classify, and I don't remember also, but then those who want to drink, it's one of the worst things that can happen, by which they want to feel intoxicated. Now, what is intoxication? A person who is actually intoxicated does not know what he is doing. He's like a madman. So he's doing something, but he thinks that he's doing something good. Why? Because he is intoxicated. He's not in his senses. So the God has given senses. If you don't utilize that senses, you can be like a bear also. You can be like a dog also. You can be like any other four-legged animal. So definitely getting a two-legged body is very difficult for such people who are situated in that mode. There are so many species of life in the four legs, or you can name, and if you see the species, I mean, many times I see dogs struggling in the road. Why should they struggle? Because something is gone wrong in their past karma. We can't understand, but God knows. So definitely, these are intoxicative activities which can lead one to degradation. Definitely not upgradation, degradation.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other question? Anybody else? Hare Krishna.
When people of that mentality of Rakshasas or Yakshas, does Krishna give them a chance to improve in life or change their classification?
Not only him, Krishna gives everybody who is born in this material for a change. It depends. Some may be fortunate enough to take it up also. Not everybody is born with a very bright thing. And many people have changed their life just by a short moment of association with the devotees of the Lord. So how come they are able to take it? The Lord has given free will to everybody. The Lord has given an opportunity to everybody. The Lord has opened the doors for so much of satsanga, you can't even imagine. But then, if somebody makes use of that, it is possible for them to definitely change. Definitely. There are so many, even within our movement, who came from Europe and America, where the living conditions, even in the past, were abominable. Even today, they live on a highly opulent and demonic, with a very demoniac mentality. But then some have taken up the doors which Krishna has left open for everybody. He has not selected somebody that, no, I will give only this person an opportunity. He has left the doors open for everybody. But the fortunate ones who think they are suffering, like we see here, Brahma was frustrated. And Brahma realized that he was frustrated. But how many are thinking that I am frustrated or I am disgusted? Only a very few. Such people start thinking that why is it that I am suffering like this? Even if it is opulent, why am I suffering like this? So such people take up to the spiritual life, which we will be reading in the further verses to come, that how one turns to godly association. Because when somebody starts thinking that I'm suffering here, the Lord is seated as Paramatma, and he facilitates such people. Sometimes we go and distribute books in the streets, and many times people might be thinking, what is it that they are doing, selling books in the early morning, or sometimes late evenings, night. But then what happens is when they get a book at home, that is a form of the Lord himself, not different from the Lord. Sometimes they may be frustrated and open the book and say, oh, Krishna has recited this Bhagavad Gita. Let me open it and check. So by chance, if they open the book and they read something, they may become very, very fortunate. Lord facilitates. How come Lord facilitates? Because he is giving this opportunity to everybody. So in one of the shlokas which I mentioned, not only demons, but even living entities who are very unfortunate or by nature, they live a very sinful life, like birds, even they can, and animals, even they can revive their original spiritual life. So it is possible for everybody, not for one class of men or not for one class of living entity. Opportunities are there for every living entity in all forms of life to revive their spiritual life. There was an example that was quoted some time back as to how, I think in Puri, yes, in Puri, one of the temples, every day a bull used to come and Srimad Bhagavatam class was going on. So how can a bull get an opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam? And it was said that that bull used to come every time at the particular time when the class would be on. And then as soon as the class is over, the bull used to go away. So this is a very classic example. I remembered how a bull can become fortunate by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you. But after a person has
Answer your question, Babu.
yes, sir. But after a person has got an animal,
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
After a human being has got an animal body in the next birth.
Can you speak louder? I'm not able to hear.
Volume. After a person has got the animal body in the next birth, but
Pardon
even
me?
then he is.
Can you repeat? Because now I'm trying to keep the phone near my ear. The voice is very low, very, very low.
Yeah. After the person has got an animal birth in the next birth,
yes,
but even then he has got a chance to improve or change his attitude.
yes, it is possible, no? That is why I gave an example of a bull attending a Srimad Bhagavatam class. See, we do kirtan in the streets. Now, there are so many living entities in the streets, they get the benefit. We may not realize, but the Lord will definitely give them a benefit if they have got that opportunity here in the name of Krishna. If Krishna can bring a demoniac person, if Krishna can bring a person who was born but behaving in a demoniac way to give a demoniac birth, why can't he give a higher birth to a living entity who is four-legged maybe, or a dog or anybody who can hear the name of Krishna? Not everybody can hear the name of Krishna, fortunate enough. So even at abominable species of life, they are giving them an opportunity to hear Krishna's name by chanting. So they will definitely get that benefit of it. Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Babu. Thank you, Babu. Any other questions, comments?
So, Prabhuji, what is the way to change these?
1 second, your voice is again low. Can you tell me now? Yes.
Sorry, Prabhuji. What is the way to change these yakshas to come to goodness? Like, how can we change them to come to goodness instead of ignorance and passion?
Give them some association and let them hear some kirtan, some katha. Not many may take it up, but sometimes consistent persuasion may help. That is possible.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. But we have to be patient enough. I mean, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also said, we may have to spill tons of blood to make someone a devotee. If we should take it as a true statement given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we have to constantly persuade, put our efforts. We might get sometimes frustrated in the process, but we should not give up the process. We should continue to pursue them to take up Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else? If not, can I take the classes concluded, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. If there are no questions, we can end the session.
Pardon me, I'm not able to hear.
Yes. If there are no questions, we can end the session, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thanks so much. Hare Krishna. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.